And Ed Rogers he put that, Iowa's a trap game. I would actually argue Maryland is the trap game because you do have Iowa the next week.
Yes.
It would be very easy to look past Maryland and say, this team's awful. We're definitely going to beat them, but the big game is next week against Iowa. And I'm sure there's going to be some questions. Is that going to be a night game? Is it going to, what exactly is going to happen? I think there's been a lot of talk that most likely that's probably going to be a noon game, the big noon kickoff. But nonetheless, we're talking 18 to 22-year-old young men. So who knows what's going on in their mind. So I actually would disagree with Ed Rogers. Thank you for the comment. But I actually think Maryland would be the trap game because you have kind of Iowa coming up right after that.
Yeah, in what I think is the definition of a trap game, Iowa's not sneaking up on Michigan. It's their first road game of the year. It's considered one of the toughest places to play. It's just, and Iowa's a good team. They obviously dismantled them in the Big Ten championship game, but they still recognize that this team went to the Big Ten championship game and typically contends for the conference title game, as opposed to Maryland never contending for anything.
Yeah, true. It'll be interesting. And Antoine, thanks for tuning in. We'll put Iowa's quarterback situation, and I that was a lot of my when we had our show last year, Big Ten championship week. I mean, I didn't see enough from their quarterback position to be threatened. Really, their offense as a whole, to even think Michigan would be threatened at all in that game. And we had Corey on, and it was great. But I was texting Dre during the game. I mean, Michigan scored their first touchdown of the game, and I immediately text Dre, this game Michigan wins. This game is over, because I just didn't think that Iowa's offense could produce. And to me, until that is shown, I still won't believe that. Like I'll believe it when I see it.
There is, to me, nothing Iowa can do between now and that Michigan game that's going to prove to me that their offense is great. Like, even if they score 50 points against, I think it's North Dakota State and Nevada and Rutgers is their Big Ten open. Even if they're scoring now, I would be encouraged by that to say, okay, they weren't doing this last year or the year before, the year before, the year before. They don't do this. But now I got to see it against a big opponent. Not that they need to score 50 against Michigan, but prorate it. For them to be a threat against Michigan, I think they need to score at least plus 20 to maybe win a 20-17 kind of game, but probably a little bit more than that. And yeah, if they sleepwalk through, and when I say sleepwalk, that doesn't mean that they're not trying or putting out the effort, but if their offense looks like it's stuck in the mud against inferior opponents and they're winning those games like they won those out of conference games last year, they're winning 24-7, 27-13, and their offense doesn't look like it's progressed at all, then because it's difficult. Michigan's not 42-3 better than Iowa and wasn't last year. Like, if they play them over and over and over, obviously that's not going to be the score, because Michigan wasn't beating worse teams than Iowa like that. But they showed that they're substantially better, and until proven otherwise, Michigan's a top 5 to 10 team in the country, and Iowa's probably more like a top 25-ish team in the country.
Yeah. And there was a comment, and I think I missed it, but basically someone had mentioned that Corey had guaranteed. Yeah, here it is. The Daniel Hemry says, "Sorry, Michigan. Corey guaranteed an Iowa win over Michigan." He spelled Corey's name wrong, but Corey was very confident about that game. I don't know if he guaranteed. Maybe I missed that part. I don't know if he guaranteed a victory, but he felt extremely confident in that game that Iowa was gonna take care of business. I think it's clear Corey is a fan of Iowa, which is fine. But I he just has a lot of confidence in his team, and that's what fans and fanatics do. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like you guys had the conversation about the linebackers being ranked in the groups and things like that, and that was an interesting conversation. He was not as high on Willie Henderson as a lot of people are, but you know, it,
Oh,
I to me it's going to be. I mean, I'm not going to look at it the same way as the Big Ten championship, but it's going to be pretty similar because at that point we knew Aiden was a dominant force, Ojabo was a dominant force. We saw Dax Hill, like that defense was playing every single snap and every week like their hair was on fire. So I was extremely confident that once Michigan put 7 on the board, that was basically going to be it for Iowa. Now, I don't think I wouldn't I wouldn't text that to Dre if Michigan goes up 7-0 this year, but I mean if Michigan put 10 on the board, I'd feel pretty good about that as just watching. It's just to beat a dead horse, like I just don't see where the offensive yards and plays and the consistency is going to come from with the Iowa quarterbacks, because Michigan's just not a team that you're going to just line up and bully them up and down the field for 300 yards on the ground and 28 points. That's not going to happen.